Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Double D Fantasy Football. I'm back with my dad here. This is Davis Holland and my dad, Dave Holland. We're back with the third edition after week one is nearly over. We still have our game this evening to play, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff and good things for you guys as far as how things have gone for our teams and some surprises here and there. How you feeling today, Dad?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, we're taping ahead of the Monday night game because we'd like to get some of these waiver ideas out to y'all tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be a big day to go ahead and start putting in those waivers.
Absolutely. And make sure that as you guys are going through, you're taking a look at those waiver lists and seeing who's popped off and who stands out for you in each of the positions that you need. And we're hoping to help you along here. We're going to start today with the game of the week. And there were some good ones this weekend. One certainly stands out, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The game last night was absolutely amazing. Hopefully, everybody watched that game. As far as a football game goes, you're not going to get any better. I thought it was really cool at the end of the game. They said that the final score was the first time that 41-40 has ever been a final score in a game. So that's amazing in itself. But it was really exciting, and from a fantasy perspective, you could not ask for anything more.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we can bet, maybe not, maybe. We'll see. The new Bears offense has definitely got a lot of surprises, hopefully we'll see tonight. But I think we can confidently say that game last night will take the cake this week. It was just an absolutely spectacular game to watch. And as you said, for the fantasy perspective here, there was a lot of fun and a lot of things to observe. For instance, we were down how many points in one league with Derrick Henry and Josh Allen up left?
Yeah, in one of our leagues, we were getting crushed. Midway through the afternoon, I texted Davis and said, "It's over. We're definitely going to lose this one." We were down by I think 60 some points going into Monday night. Our opponent did not have anybody left to play, and we had Derrick Henry and Josh Allen, and ended up winning by a pretty comfortable margin. I think 12, 13 points.
I watched an interview with Derrick Henry. The ironic thing about the whole situation was that fumble that he had late in the game after absolutely terrorizing the Bills' defense. And I thought the way he handled it was, of course, really good. He's always a professional, and that's why he's at the level he is at his age. But there was no way that could be pinned just solely on Derrick Henry. That is absolutely for sure. And it's wild to see the Ravens seem to buckle in these really high-pressure situations or these games that they should be winning or should have won. And I think with all the weapons and tools now, I'm sure their fan base is agreeing that they're just ready to hit their stride. And I do think they will, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, they're a really, really good team. They dominated the majority of that game. It was just too much Josh Allen in the end. It's been so fun to kind of watch that guy improve. He wasn't highly touted coming out of college, and there were a lot of flaws in his game. But man, when it comes down to winning time, he makes all the right plays.
He is a gamer, and they have that home field advantage last night. I'm sure it may have been a different story if it were in Baltimore, but the Bills fans and that Bills program is absolutely something to be reckoned with. How about we move into our surprises this week? We have quite a few names for our surprises in this list. I'm going to start with a guy that isn't a super big surprise, but I'm giving myself a good old pat in the back for Mr. Deebo Samuel absolutely showing up for the Washington Redskins and having that wonderful role in that offense. I'm not sure if it has to do with Terry McLaurin kind of coming in late after, his whole thing with his contract that he wanted to get bumped up that year, but I am super stoked about the fact that Deebo is being used in so many ways in that team.
Yeah, we thought really a neat category to do early in the season is surprises because coming into new seasons, you just really never know who's going to step up and who's going to fade. And Deebo is a great one to start with. We've been a big fan of Deebo's for a long time. We like his game, and he's done really well for us over the years. And he had a tremendous game, and we have him on one of our teams, so hopefully that continues.
Oh, 100%. And I think we can stick with the Redskins. Not this time. The Washington football team, which if you caught in one of our...
Well, it's the Commanders, but that's okay.
Okay, all right, you know what? It's Washington. It's Washington football team. No more Commanders. I didn't vote for that anyway. But anyways, back to Washington and the team in Washington. Bill. I mean, everybody's banging his drum, and he certainly, I think he joined in on that last night or whenever they played the other day, with his performance. I think was absolutely wonderful. Another good surprise there.
Yeah, I think some of the biggest surprises came at quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, who knew? I he's an afterthought. He's 41 years old, and we'll see if it continues or not. But he certainly had a great debut. The other one was Daniel Jones, who most people have pretty much said his career's over, and he had a great game as well. So we'll see how he does as the time goes by. But those guys definitely got off to a strong start.
Yeah, and another QB to throw in. I'm going to just throw in the other half of the Aaron Rodgers situation, but Justin Fields played a spectacular game. His pocket presence was absolutely amazing. He was extremely elusive and aware with that, keeping his eyes downfield all the while. And his accuracy.
Yep.
This is something we heard about going in, or during preseason rather, that he was not. I mean, I saw highlight after highlight of missed throws, and I'm not sure if that was on purpose to kind of throw people off the scent, but that man was on point this weekend.
Yeah, we considered drafting him and never really did it because it was just he's been kind of inconsistent over the years. We've had him on some of our teams, but he is a big threat as far as a runner, and he had a good game. I think the Jets in general, I think, get our team award for the surprise of the week. I mean, everybody on that team. Garrett Wilson had a great game. Brees Hall, supposedly there was going to be a committee. That didn't happen yesterday, and he really showed out as the good player that he is. I mean, he's a tremendous running back, and he had a great game.
He took over that alpha role for sure. Braylon Allen, I may be mispronouncing his 1st name. He was still used pretty significantly, but obviously not enough to impact Brees Hall's wonderful performance. And another name too from that game and that team too is, or rather, excuse me, the Steelers here. But a quick shift is Calvin Austin had a great game and a little lower in the depth chart for people. And if you have those bigger leagues, I think he'd be a good grab.
Definitely. I think our surprise of the week, at least for me, would have to be Travis Etienne. He definitely was a flop last year, drafted very high, and people got him late in this draft this year, and we'll see if it continues as well. But he looked like the old Travis Etienne that we saw a couple of years ago, and hopefully that will continue for him.
We know the talent's there, and I think there's that new coaching staff change that they've had there, and hopefully the Jags get rolling too. I think that there's a lot of players, including Trevor Lawrence, whom I'm not a huge fan, but I do appreciate the guy, and I think he's waiting for his opportunity to have a good season. Hopefully that's going to be this season for them. How about CMC not getting injured? Huh? He has designation, but he still did absolutely.
That was Dave's big surprise when we first started talking about this, was that CMC came out unscathed. So good for him. We love CMC, but he's definitely been brittle here the last few years. But he's such a good player.
I'm sure gave a lot of fantasy football owners a lot of anxiety when that questionable injury designation came out. And the last couple here I would want to mention is the Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker situation. Not necessarily a surprise, but not a good reality dose or reality check for those who invested early on with Kenneth Walker. And we were able to get Charbonnet later, I suppose. Still had to use a pretty decently high draft pick in those later rounds, I suppose. But getting him, and at this point, I don't see either of them being super viable for next week. I mean, it seemed like Charbonnet got more opportunities in a lot of cases and was more efficient. So where does that leave Kenneth Walker, whom we know is a really, really good ball runner, whether or not he's back up to 100%? There's just so many question marks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to work itself out one way or the other. You can look at it two different ways. You can say they're both playable because they're both getting a decent number of carries. Or you can look at it the other way as they're both not playable because it's such a split. I read a thing today that said stick with Walker because he did not play much in the preseason, and they're going to try to bring him on slow, work him into shape, and we'll see about that. But they're both really good running backs. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Another backfield to keep an eye on is the Cardinals. I know Connor had a pretty good game, but Trey Benson also looked really good, and they've been talking about Trey Benson for a while now. So if he's somebody you drafted, hang on to him. He could easily take over that backfield. And of course, if Connor goes down and he's injury prone, he's definitely going to be a good guy to have on your team. And if he's on waivers, when we get to that, I'll probably mention him again. But Trey Benson, I think, is worth stashing at the end of your bench.
Yeah, while watching that game, I went through a major back and forth. I love Connor, so I always keep an eye for him. And so Trey Benson, when he had a few really really strong runs, I definitely was worried for Connor. But Connor still put out. I think he had one run into the end zone and a touchdown as a result, where he just he looked like he was playing on another level than the defense that he ran through. And so there's still some juice left in that tank. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. The younger guy is usually a good bet though on that one. All right, shall we move into waivers? Do you have
Let's
any
move
other
into
stuff?
waivers. I'm sure everybody watching, that's the main thing on your mind, or at least it should be right now.
Yes.
So let's go ahead. I think we'll go by position and just kind of look at some of the guys that might be available. It's hard to say, depending on the size of your league, whether or not guys will be available. And if there's people on there that we don't mention that are obvious ones, then make that move. But we kind of looked at it from a perspective of guys that are widely available or maybe widely available in most leagues. So hopefully some of these will help you out.
Yeah, for sure. So, quarterback, I mean, there's a number of names. And as you said, depending on your league size, whether they're available is a whole different discussion. I think a good guy to start with, and we've already mentioned, Justin Fields did an excellent job. He might be already gone depending on your situation with your league, but definitely somebody to target. Looked really comfortable and really strong all around, too, not just in the running game or even the throwing game, but a mix of both, which is something his dynamics needed to get caught up with, and he had his high draft capital. Hopefully, it reflects it now. Any other QBs you had? I know you've been looking at Michael Penix quite
Yeah,
a bit.
Michael Penix is somebody I've been talking about since he was in college. I really like his competitiveness. I think he's really talented. He likes to sling the balls, so that works out really well for fantasy football. He had a good game. He was one of the best players on that team. I know Drake London's a little banged up, so that's going to hurt his overall potential if for some reason London can't play. But I think Penix is somebody worth adding. Yes.
Yeah, and I think kind of throwing the additional name, not a QB, but as far as Michael Penix's presence there, but Kyle Pitts had a decent showing, and we'll get to tight ends later, but I think it's just something you and I have always hoped it would happen whenever we've had Pitts on our team, and of course he's been a huge bust, not just for us, but I'm sure many other people. Maybe there's something going there. It'd be great, especially if London's out. But any other QBs? Danny Dimes?
Yeah, I mean, if you're really desperate for a quarterback, I mean, I'm not ready to pick him up yet, but he had a good game, and if you need bench help, backup quarterback, he's probably as good as anybody else out there.
I'm going to throw in an honorable mention. Aaron Rodgers, excuse me. Aaron Rodgers, if you would like to risk it, the Steelers are still settling in. I think that's a name, and his points definitely would make him hard to ignore. But another one is Geno Smith. The Raiders looked smooth. I mean, smoother than I anticipated, maybe is a better way to phrase it. But they were getting the ball and moving it quite often. They've got a decent run game with GNT, who's hopefully coming into his own at that rookie season. But getting the ball to Myers, I mean, Geno did a decent job. I think he was really serviceable and might be a serviceable fantasy quarterback this year. Anybody else, or would you like to move into running back?
Yeah, we can go to running backs. This is going to be quick for me because running backs they're a premium and they're super hard to find. I mean, usually with running backs, what always happens is somebody's running back gets hurt, and so their backup all of a sudden is super valuable, and then everybody vies for them. Fortunately, that's not the case on any of the teams this year, so that's great news for everybody. I did mention Trey Benson already. I just think he's going to get a lot of carries. I think if Charbonnet's available, you might want to grab him as well because both of those have standalone value in my view at this time. But I don't really have anybody else. The Cleveland backfield, they had a couple guys that did well this week. I don't know what to make of that. You got Judkins coming back. He's signed now, so I think eventually he's going to take over. Nick Chubb is out there. Nick played pretty decent. He had several carries and had a pretty solid game. He didn't get into the end zone or anything, but he's available, I think, in at least one of our leagues. And if you're really, really hurting at running back, he might be worth a look. I don't know what else Houston has going for him right now.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off the Cleveland Browns point. Dylan Sampson had a decent game.
Yeah.
I saw flashes there, and he was one of the few bright spots in the Browns offense, in my opinion. It was generally a
Hmm.
slow offense, and so he was mobile. As you said, they've got the other two guys coming back or trying to get into more significant roles. But Jerome Ford was completely a non-factor, and Samson looked good. He passed the eye test, in my opinion. So if he's available, I think he's worth at least maybe a grab or a stash. If you really are desperate, as you said, to fill somebody in, he might be a good name for you.
Right.
What about wide receiver?
Wide receiver, there's definitely a few available that I think probably need to be on rosters if they're not already. I've got four guys and I've put them in two categories because they kind of go together. Starting with the vets, there's a couple of vets out there that I think are going to have solid roles on their team. Keenan Allen looked really good. Keenan Allen's just a great player, and it doesn't look like he's aging. And he's still productive. And those guys, they threw the ball a lot more in that game than anybody was expecting the Chargers to do. So that's good news for the Justin Herbert owners out there. The other one's Hollywood Brown. I mean, kind of just by default, Kansas City has had multiple injuries at the receiver spot, and it's available for him right now. Lots of targets are up for grabs, and he's a good player. He's had a really good career, just like Allen. And then two young guys, they're kind of boom bust, and the kind of guys it seems like we talk about every year in fantasy football since they've come into the NFL. Quentin Johnson going back to the Chargers, he had a great game, but he did that a few times last year, and then disappeared. The other one was Romeo Dobbs, had a decent week, but once again, we've picked both those guys up previously, and we ended up dropping both of them because then they don't do anything. So we'll see what happens with those guys. But if I had to pick from that group, I'd take the veterans. I think Hollywood and Keenan are both solid players, and they're not going to hurt your roster, and they're not going to boom or bust. They're just going to go out and get targets.
How about Kayshon Boutte? And New England, he had a really good game and certainly passed the eye test. And Drake May's got to throw to somebody, And they've
Right.
got a couple other options there. But 8 targets for 6 receptions, 103 yards. That's a solid performance with no touchdowns, still getting 13.3 points. And he's a deep track too. He's probably available in a lot of these leagues that people might be playing in, especially if they're a little deeper. I think he's a great name to keep in mind. And then just a random guy here. This is a really interesting thing, but he had an absolute dime of a highlight. Only one catch, only one
Mhm.
target. But it was Isaac Tesla. I sent him to you, and it was just an amazing
Right.
highlight. Dude got a grab. And if he gets more opportunities and has more of that ability in the end zone, especially if they target him, I think that he might be a viable guy. And the Lions need something. They need something to add a little extra juice to their offense because it was a little slow moving, I thought, this weekend.
Yeah, between that catch and then the DeAndre Hopkins catch in the game last night,
Man.
those were definitely Sports Center top 10 highlights right there.
100%. And then last little thing, and this may not be a thing that is available to our listeners, but if you have any of the Bills receivers, you got Khalil Shakir or Keon Coleman available somehow, they need to be grabbed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about tight end? Who are we liking?
Well, tight end, I think, is probably the most critical category this week as far as waivers go because of the injuries. Kittle's probably going to be out, looks like, for a couple weeks. Evan Ingram got hurt, and then Brock Bowers was hurt as well. And those two, we don't really have any information about how long they'll be out. But the good news is, in most leagues, there's quite a few names there that I think can fill in the meantime for those guys. Zach Ertz may be available. Zach, we talked about him in one of our earlier shows. He's solid. He's on a good team, so he wouldn't be a bad pickup. Jonnu Smith had a decent game. Jonnu had a
I
great,
used him a lot.
yeah. He had a great year last year, and he got traded, and it looked like he was just gonna, disappear. But he's a talent.
His
He's a
history
beast
with
out there.
Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator too, I think helps him a ton because they were making gadget plays for the guy.
Right.
Arthur
Yeah.
Smith clearly believes in him moving the ball up forward for them, so I would take that bet as well.
Me too. Juwan Johnson had a good game. He had a bunch of good games last year, sporadic good games. He's on the Saints, so he's going to be a little bit limited. He's a good player. He's one of those guys, if he went to the right situation, I think he'd be one of the best tight ends in the league. Jacksonville, Brenton Strange, he's a talent, and they're using him. I think he actually led Jacksonville in targets yesterday. So he's somebody. I heard a little bit about him last year, and they were talking about him coming into this year. Now, if Bowers is out, his backup's a highly regarded high draft pick as well, Michael Mayer. Might be worth it. If you're the Bowers owner, that's who I would get right there. Just go ahead and grab him, and then you've got your tight end if Bowers is out, and you don't have to worry about that situation. Finally, Harold Fannin. I said I'm not a huge Browns guy, but Harold Fannin is had a great week. They talked about him during camp. He actually set the NCAA record for the most receptions in a season last year. You can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I read that. He went to Bowling Green, and I know they've gotten Njoku, but they ran a lot of sets with both of those guys, and they used him to target a lot. I don't know if I would pick him up. I need a little bit more information, but you can say you heard it first on this show.
It's really hard to ignore 9 targets, 7 receptions with any position.
Right.
So,
Right.
I totally agree. That's not a name that had been on my radar as well until this moment. But, yeah, looking at his stats, I didn't catch the 2 receiver sets, but I'm not surprised the Browns need to throw to somebody, and then they need him to show up. And going back just quickly to Juwan Johnson, Riddler didn't look terrible. I really didn't think that their Saints offense was as stunted. There we go. It's not as stunted as I was thinking. And granted, it's week 1, but as far as Juwan Johnson being potentially prevalent, it's not a bad idea. And then lastly, shall we move into our defense pick of the week?
Well,
for the future too.
As you guys know, we're big fans of streaming defenses, and the good news is there's a bunch of good opportunities this week. If you go to the end of your waiver wire because you make a pick, wait till free agency to grab one. Some weeks there's only really one really good choice with the good matchup. This week there's multiple ones, but some to look at. The Cowboys are playing the Giants. Cowboys their defense did not look half bad to me in the Eagles game. Arizona, they had a good matchup this week. Didn't do that great, but they have Carolina this week. The Rams play the Titans. I know Davis isn't going to like to hear that, but the Titans are one of those teams, offenses that you can kind of go after. And the Rams their defense had a really good week. The Patriots are playing the hapless Miami Dolphins. Maybe Miami will pull it together some this week, but moving forward, they may turn out to be one of those ones that we target a lot. And then finally, I know you just touted the Saints a little bit, but the 49ers play them. So their defense against the Saints, I think, is a good choice. That would probably be the one I would take of that group. 49ers may not be available. I looked at our leagues that we play in, and I think they were available in every one of them. And the good news for those of you that drafted the Bills and the Ravens, they have great matchups this week, so enjoy the points you get. Well, actually, the Bills play the Jets, so maybe I shouldn't tout that one too soon, but the Ravens play the Browns this week, so enjoy your points there if you drafted the Ravens.
Yeah, it's weird to think the Jets might be a team to avoid for streaming defenses, but if we've made it that far, that's not good for them, I suppose.
They have weapons, and it looks maybe they'll come together. I mean, I'd like to root for them. I like all their guys, so we didn't really draft any of them, but they're definitely a team they're fun to watch.
Yes, I totally agree, and any fun team is a fun team.
Uh-huh.
So, what about our drops? I mean, it's only week 1. Everything should be taken with a grain of salt that's going on in this podcast,
Right.
but we should look at those players that, they had the opportunity, it was presented to them, maybe they even had the targets, and they just did not do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the drops at the beginning of the year are the hardest ones to make because you don't have a lot of data on anybody at this point, and these are all guys that you drafted, and so you'd like to see them succeed. So all these guys there's some obvious ones out there, and if you have somebody on your roster that didn't play at all or was whatever the reason was, and he's obvious, go ahead and get rid of him. But these are kind of ones that you could have a little regret later. But sometimes you have to make a hard decision because you want to go for one of the free agents or you want to pick up somebody on waivers. So you got to open up the roster spot. So I'm just going to throw a few names out there. Maybe if you've got these guys, you can scrutinize them a little bit more because there could be some regret with all of them. Starting with Tank Bigsby. Tank came in and took Etienne's job last year for all intents and purposes, but based on week one, it looks like the Etienne show. The another running back would be Jaden Blue. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders got all the carries. I don't think Jaden was even active. He may still kind of be injured. He's a rookie. He's got a lot of talent, but he may be the odd man out, at least for this year. And it was Javonte Williams is one we really haven't talked about that much, but he might have been one of the bigger surprises. He wasn't real efficient overall, but if you drafted him and you put him in your lineup this week, you are very happy. Jerome Ford, he was being touted as a late pickup before the first set of games. He was Jerome Ford. He didn't do much at all. And then some receivers. Rashad Bateman he had a couple catches, but
there's a lot of mouths to feed. And
he didn't really give us much. Marvin Mims is another one that was highly touted as a possible wild card wide receiver this year. Didn't do much week one. Josh Downs, seemed like the odd man out. He's notorious for getting lots of targets. Maybe that will change in that situation, but that Colts team, they were a surprise this week. So maybe hang on to him, give him a little bit longer. And then two that kind of pained me to throw out there. Cooper Kupp. We love Cooper Kupp, but maybe Father Time has caught up with him. I hope he proves me wrong on that statement right there because I love him. But if you have to drop somebody, he may be somebody to think about. And the other one is if you don't have IR in your league, injured reserve spots, Chris Godwin, I'm not sure that he's worth rostering at this point after the game that Mbuka had last night or Sunday.
Yeah, and I just want to throw one name in there too. It's just the overall disappointment of the team, which we weren't necessarily, not a huge surprise here, but I don't know. He's got a lot of talent. We know, we've seen, but CJ Stroud did not look good. Didn't look good. The Texans didn't look good, and if there are better quarterback options out there, which we've listed numerous, and probably your league has them available depending on size, yeah, it might be time to rotate that one, in my opinion. Anybody else you want to bring up, Pop?
No, as far as drops go, it's just so early, and we're struggling with that right now. There's some guys we'd like to pick up, and the biggest problem we have right now is we want to hold on to the guys that we have. So I'm not really sure if there's anybody else I would add to that list.
I'm with you. How about our surprisingly startable tastes of the week?
Instead of doing start sit this early in the year, it's kind of everything's sorting itself out right now, and that's when you start to find out you've got guys that are on your bench and they may be startable based on their performance the first week, and those are always the most exciting guys. Those are the ones I feel the best about after the first week or two, are guys that we found at the end of the draft, and they turn out to be really, really good players, and you can get them into your lineup. And some of these are names we've already talked about, but these are ones to think about, and some of them I think are shoo-ins, and we'll kind of talk about the difference. Quarterbacks, we already talked about Michael Penix. I don't know if you're ready to start him or not, but I think he's rosterable, and if you're in a 2-quarterback league, which we are, he'd be a good second quarterback. Another one is this guy, of course, was drafted, but we had 2 of the leagues we played in. He was on the bench, but Justin Herbert looks like he's ready to roll. Guy, he's one of the guys that we've loved since he came into the NFL. We've had him on several of our teams, and he's got looks like he's got the weapons this year.
He's healthy and has a great situation. The coach definitely, Harbaugh believes in him for sure. So they're going to put the ball in his hands in key situations.
Yep. Any other quarterbacks from you as far as startables?
Startable, you know, we're early, as you said. I love Daniel Jones, and hopefully he's found his stride in Indiana, or Indianapolis, excuse me. But he's a name I would throw in there, definitely tentatively. Just because it's early. It's early, and we want to see him against more competition. Justin Fields for sure, but if he's available, of course, he seems
Yeah.
startable. The way he played, I mean, I would be comfortable as
Oh,
my QB1 for now, at least. I mean, again, same situation for Daniel Jones. We know their history, and so more consistency will definitely make that a lot easier of a call. Hopefully next week.
yes. Justin Fields is startable now.
Yes.
Running backs.
So
So
Bill, let's go with Bill.
Bill,
Let's start off with Bill.
just to qualify, Davis has been talking about Bill since the very beginning. He jumped on the Bill hype bandwagon, and Bill made Davis look very good this weekend, and he's
Very
very
happy.
happy about that. We have him on one of our teams, and it was our first draft, so he wasn't being overdrafted yet, and so we got him pretty late. We may start him this week. We're thinking. I think he's in our starting lineup for that team because we have Ken Walker and Charbonnet, and so we're looking. And our other running back is Isaiah Pacheco, who didn't have a very good week either. So, yeah, you look at the efficiency: 10 carries, 82 yards, and Chris Rodriguez wasn't even active, right? So,
He's a healthy scratch.
yeah, it seems to me that they've maybe made the decision that he's their guy. They traded B Rob, and they're the people that drafted him early. It may look really good for them, but the team that we have him on is the one where we are definitely slimmest in the running back area.
Relying
So it
on
would
Kenneth
be,
Walker.
yeah, we're relying on Walker as our RB2, and Pacheco as our three. So it would be awesome if he came through. But we'll see how he does this week. But he may be startable.
Yeah.
The other one, and yes, we have him as well. He's our pretty far down. Is Javonte Williams? If he has another game like he did, Dallas is going to score points this year. They've got a good offense, and if he's going to be their go-to guy, he'll be startable. Give him one more week. We'll see how he does.
They seem to trust him. You know, and Miles Sanders had a pretty key fumble too that would take a little bit
Hmm.
of trust away from him, and he's had history of that being a problem as well.
Yeah.
So whether or not they give their rookie a bit more touch, I don't know. I think Javonte Williams is lined up for a nice bell cow position.
Yeah. Yep, and he had ACL, a couple of years ago, so maybe it just took him that long to get back there. And Dallas didn't really. I mean, they brought in Jaden Blue, but they didn't use a high draft pick or anything. So they were in the back of their mind, they were thinking this was going to be their guy. It's his job to lose, and they gave him the goal line carries. And as y'all know, with running backs, that's probably the most important.
That's money.
Yes, sir.
That is money.
All right, receivers got a bunch. Got a
Yeah, we're
bunch.
gonna start this one early.
Yeah. So receivers, the obvious ones. Well, I just want to flip through those real quick. They weren't super obvious before the season started. They were highly touted, but they came out the first week and said, "Yes, we're going to get the job done." Abuka, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Lord have mercy. We've got him on one team. I wish I had him on more. Um, the other one was Ricky Pearsall. Had a good week, good solid week, and it looks like he's ready to take over the alpha job for the 49ers. So, those guys are definitely, you may have started them this week. They're definitely startable. And then some guys that weren't startable before this week that may have earned that label is first, let's start with Keon Coleman. What
Great
a
game.
game.
Great
Yeah.
game. I think what startled me, not startled, surprised me for sure was just the usage. He seemed to just be like a decoy, almost last year. They just didn't seem to look his way, and last night it was every instance and a lot of red zone looks. I'm very excited about that.
He's a good athlete. Phew. Josh Allen loves having a guy that you can just send out there and just make a
Load up.
mistake, and the guy still somehow gets the ball. He made some catches last night that were just major athletic plays, and he's a big body in the end zone. And we have him on the team that we have Josh Allen, and it's going to be hard to not start him.
For sure.
Michael Pittman,
Great pick.
resurrected from the dead.
I'm happy. I really
he,
like him. I'm happy to see that.
yes, we've had him some over the years, and I think he's back to being startable. We'll see if it continues, but Jacoby Myers is always startable, but we had the issues with holding out, looking for a new contract, and he went out and did what Jacoby Myers does, and that's get open and make a lot of nice plays. So
Yeah,
put him in your lineup.
he's been
Yeah.
one of the most consistent receivers on whatever team he's on. He just makes it happen. So yeah, I'm really glad to see that he's back in his element with that team.
Right. The last guy, a lot of people probably did start him this week, but he surprised me was Zay Flowers, and we'll see how Zay does overall. He's definitely seems more confident this year, and Lamar definitely looks for him more than I've seen in the past. He mopped up. He had a great game. So if you're thinking about putting him in your lineup, if you haven't already, we'll see. See if he stays consistent because he's kind of another boom bust guy.
He's another one of those guys. The offensive teams seem to be looking for ways to give him the ball. Similar to that of Jonnu Smith and his situation with Arthur Smith. I think they just try to they draw up the plays to get the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker in an open field, and I think you're right. I think he's going to have a decent season this year, and certainly has worked his way into a startable position. Hollywood Brown, maybe too obvious, but I think it's worth mentioning. We've already talked about him a little bit, so
Yeah.
I'll spin my tires there, but definitely a name to keep in mind. And I think that brings it to about it. Do you have anything else for us, Pop?
Just lastly, the tight ends, and you know, Tyler Warren had a great week. If you picked him as your backup tight end, you got some tough calls to make because he's the man. They gave him some carries. He did everything they predicted he was going to do, and he's definitely startable.
For sure.
And,
Yeah.
but other than that, I think that's it. I mean, if any of the viewers have any questions they have or decisions they have to make, if they want to throw them out there, we'd be more than happy to throw in our 2 cents.
Or specific players too. Drop a name, and if we
Yeah.
have some insight that we could be willing to share, definitely let us know what you guys have, and generally too how your teams are doing. Definitely engage with us, and we will certainly be making sure to comment and just address these things in our podcast moving forward. And we hope everybody has had a great week one. We certainly have loved everything that's played out for us. Not quite everything, but mostly everything that's played out for us, and enjoying seeing the fruit of our labors going into the first week after all that draft research and seeing where we found value in all these places. Seeing Marvin Harris pop off, even though he was a name that we never would have thought of to be somebody on our team, and we've got him on our roster, and it's just fun to see these guys blossom as they go into these new seasons. Anything left for our viewers, Dad?
Yeah, just a reminder, we kind of like this to be an interactive podcast, and we'd like to interact with people that are listening to it, especially those of you that maybe are trying the team approach. Bounce some ideas off of us and things that you're trying and things that you're doing and things that are working for you, because the whole idea of this, I'm a retired teacher and Davis is a teacher, and the whole idea is to learn from each other and help each other out. And you guys can teach us some stuff, and I think communication between us and our viewers is key to the whole philosophy behind what we're trying to do.
And just to piggyback, I totally agree. And just generally with our podcast, if there's something that we need to fix, let us know. We are new to this, and we are always trying to learn, as Dad just said. And we really hope to grow along with our audience and make sure that we're making the best fantasy possibilities for our team, both in our audience and us, each other, as our team. But I think that's about it, and does us for episode 3 and week 1. I'm Davis Holland. This has been Double D Fantasy Football. This is Dave Holland. You guys have a great evening and enjoy today's Monday night game, and we'll be back with more recollection of next week. See you guys soon.